After a busy day at work in London, Tom Hardy was invited to a special event organized by his friend. As someone who usually avoided crowds, he tried to stay away from such social events as much as possible. However, lately, he had been feeling trapped in loneliness and pessimism as he tried to get rid of the dark shadows of the past. Perhaps he had seen this night as an opportunity to find some peace. The event was held in the luxurious hall of a stylish hotel. When Tom entered the hall, his eyes looked a little dull and distant as usual. Although he wanted to stay away from his social media accounts, his constant interviews, and the public, everyone looked at him as someone known for his superhero role. However, he had a struggle with the situation he was in that he could not tell anyone. After taking a few steps, he noticed Lara. Lara was quite different from the other guests at the event. She was smiling cheerfully, chatting sincerely with people. She was striking with her high-heeled shoes and elegant dress. However, there was something that attracted more attention than that: the natural sincerity and peaceful attitude on her face. Tom watched her for a few seconds. People like her were usually so relaxed that it made Tom a little uncomfortable. Yet, something changed at that moment. A moment later, when Lara's eyes fell on Tom, they looked at each other. Lara stepped towards Tom as one of the waiters passed by. "Tom, right?" she asked. Tom raised his head. His eyes focused deeply on Lara, but he still could not give her a full answer. The direct approach of someone who knew him had strained the walls inside him. "Do we know each other?" he asked, a little hesitant on his face. Lara smiled slightly. "No, but I know you from television and magazines. My name is Lara," she said. "The purpose of this event is to draw attention to some social problems. I think people like us should use our fame to tell people something." Tom was silent for a while. Lara's approach had comforted him, but also a little surprised him. People had always looked at him like a hero. Everyone knew him as a Hollywood star and glorified him. But Lara, with her cheerfulness and demeanor, offered him such intimacy that Tom suddenly began to loosen his defenses. "So, are people really trying to draw attention to social problems?" he said, taking a sip of his drink. "Sometimes I think fame is just isolating you." Lara nodded and smiled. "Sometimes I really feel that way, but telling people stories is so important. I mean, you do that in a way, don't you?" Tom didn't quite understand what she meant, but everything was so natural and sincere that he had difficulty collecting his thoughts. "I don't feel like I deserve this," he said honestly. "It's hard to take responsibility for everything." Lara nodded calmly, "But in order to change something, you have to start. Sometimes the biggest steps start with the smallest changes." Tom looked into Lara's eyes. To pour out his heart so easily, to talk so openly with someone he didn't want to share his past and disappointments with, it made him feel different somehow. The sincere expression on Lara's face was slowly breaking down his walls. For a moment, he felt lost in the dark streets of the past, but he began to feel a sense of trust in Lara's presence. When they first met, Lara's natural positivity and peace had reawakened the lost hopes in Tom. For a few minutes, they just looked at each other. For the first time, Tom thought that maybe he didn't feel so dark, not exactly who he was. Not only Lara's words, but also her body language told him that he could change things. And at that moment, Tom couldn't feel the emptiness inside him, even for a moment. In a crowded room where he had felt alone until that moment, Lara's warm gaze gave him an inner comfort. Tom avoided remembering those days: drugs, addiction, lost relationships. All these bad habits had separated him from his true identity at some point. However, Lara gently offered him help. "I heard about someone who wanted to make peace with his past. Maybe that could be the same for you," she said. Tom resisted at first. As always, he put up his emotional defenses, but as Lara patiently spent time with him, Tom decided to turn inward one day. One day, Lara took Tom on a special walk. Being in nature gave him a sense of relief and peace. Lara didn't ask him questions, she just listened. With each step, she felt Tom move a little further away from his dark past. Lara's peaceful demeanor slowly drew Tom in. "To get rid of the burdens in your mind, you must first find the strength within yourself," Lara said, accompanying him every step of the way. At that moment, Tom realized that Lara was not only supporting him, but also reminding him of his inner strength. This was a turning point. A week later, Tom's old wounds began to resurface. At a friend's funeral, the traumas of his past resurfaced. He suddenly had a great collapse. Tom felt alone and felt as if everything was spinning out of control. At that moment, Lara was not with him, and he was left alone. A very short time later, Tom ran into Lara in a restaurant, and there was fear in her eyes. "I just wanted to see you," he said. "I lost myself." Lara hugged him silently. "I will help you. We will succeed together," she said, and calmed him down, telling him that he needed to face the darkness in his life again. They began to spend more time together. Tom felt both inner strength and external support at every step. Lara was always patient with him, but she also helped Tom fight his own battle. They started doing yoga together, tried meditation techniques, and went to the gym. Lara believed that physical healing helped mental healing. Over time, Tom was taking steps towards inner peace. One day, Lara and Tom went for a walk in a quiet village in London. They started talking slowly. "Do you want to see what the end of the story is?" Lara asked. Tom said, without thinking, "Yes." At that moment, Lara shared a few of her personal stories with him. There was a lesson she had learned while dealing with her own pain. Everything can change, but no one can change you. Only you can change. Tom was able to leave his past a little behind. A hope for the future slowly began to blossom. After Tom started talking to Lara, the pessimism in him had been erased a little. However, life always presents them with unexpected tests. That day, a crisis would come across Tom, a moment that would challenge his emotional balance. After a few weeks, Lara and Tom had begun spending more time together. Lara had noticed Tom's struggles with loneliness. When he often had a moment where he thought about the pain and loss in his past, Lara tried to support him. But as always, Tom's dark past was strong enough to force him to rebuild those walls. That day, Tom's best friend and manager, Jack, called Tom. The tension in the voice on the other end of the phone had created a sense of anxiety that had gripped Tom's core. "Tom, something happened," Jack said. "Last night, a photographer found a file on your old drug addiction. It's all over the media right now." Tom was shocked. After all these years, the darkest parts of his past had come back to haunt him. Jack's voice became even shakier on the other end of the phone. "There's something you need to do, Tom. This could get worse." When Tom hung up, his face had gone white. A cold sweat had spread throughout his body. He was starting to feel like that weak and lost man from the past again. His biggest fear was that everyone would give up on him. While this new friendship between Lara and him had brought him back to life, he was afraid that everything would collapse in an instant. When Lara saw Tom sitting alone in his room, she immediately went to him. "Tom, did something happen?" she asked, her eyes looking at Tom with concern. Tom covered his face with his hands and took a deep breath. "My past. Everything is coming back, Lara. I think everyone will remember that old man now." Lara watched Tom silently. It was tearing her heart out to see him suffer, but reminding him of the power he had was the most important part of getting him through this dark period. "Tom, does the past define you? I mean, are you really that person? I am here with you. If you can erase everything from the past, you can rewrite your future." Tom found tears streaming down his face. The words were good for him, but the shadow of the past still followed him. At that moment, she felt like everything was going to collapse. She couldn't control her emotions. This fear, loneliness, and despair suddenly surrounded her heart in every way. Lara wanted to come a little closer and say something encouraging, but no matter what she said, Tom was facing a huge internal collapse. Suddenly, he collapsed to the ground and lost himself, his head in his hands. At that moment, Lara realized that Tom needed more time and patience to confront the traumas in his past. She wanted to help him, but how? What words could calm him down? How could she find light in this pain? She felt helpless. However, Lara was a woman who had always found the strength inside her. All her efforts were aimed at Tom's recovery. No matter what, she would find a way to help him and get him out of this dark period. She gently held Tom's hand and said, "Tom, your past cannot control you. Your past does not define you. Your life today is shaped by your choices." Tom took a deep breath. "But I used to be so deep. Now everyone will remember me as I was. I have nothing left, Lara." Lara, fixing her eyes on Tom, added calmly, "It is up to you to get your life back, to find you again. Nothing is over. I am here. We can do it together." Tom saw the sincerity in Lara's eyes. For a moment, he felt that he could really get out of this dark tunnel with her, and he found hope inside him again. Although the outside world remembered his past, Lara showed him a way. Tom realized that it was time to take a step. There was someone who gave him courage, and it was a memory that would change his life. Together, Tom and Lara began to enter a process of intensive psychological support and therapy. Tom reconfronted his past emotional wounds and found a way to get rid of them. He was now struggling with less dark thoughts. Lara offered him an important turning point in his life. One day, he saw one of his old friends. That person reminded him of his past self. However, Tom had learned to face the pain of the past. When asked, "What happens next?" he said, "I will write my own story from now on." Tom had begun to heal not only physically but also spiritually. He had made peace with his past, but also with his future. Lara had been with him every step of the way, not only a supporter but also a companion. Tom was now strong enough to make his own journey. Months later, Tom Hardy found himself again. As he continued his life with Lara, he had made peace with his past and looked to the future with hope. Tom turned to Lara and said, "You changed my life." Lara smiled. "You changed your life? I was just there for you," she said. They both coped together and fought each new challenge life presented together. Tom was now strong not only physically, but also emotionally.